Hey there, English speakers, and welcome to another very special episode of the More Than English podcast. And I say that with all sincerity because we're going deep today. We are going deep into your English fluency. You see, I'm going to be answering today a couple questions that usually come up that non-native speakers usually have, and that revolves around your English fluency and how you feel. So I'm going to be answering why you have been studying English for years and years and years, but you still don't feel that level of control. You still don't feel that level of certainty when you're speaking to other people, when you're traveling, when you're in business meetings, when you're talking to clients. These are all very important situations to feel certainty, to feel comfortable, to feel in control of your English. We're going to look at why that's the case, and we're going to look at how, more importantly, how you can feel certain, feel comfortable, feel in control of your English speaking. And then I'm going to give you some specific steps, some specific ways that you can start implementing into your study, into your speaking, into your preparation, into your English time. What I call in my system, what I call in the English method, the Eagle method, your English time. And we're going to look at that at the end too. What is the Eagle method? I get that a lot. Tell me about the Eagle method. What is the Eagle method? How can I use it, right? I get that question a lot because if you don't follow me on Instagram, you can search my name, but you can also find me at The Eagle Method on Instagram and Facebook. I'm, of course, Jesse James Sweed. So let's get into it. As you can see down here, I'm going to be showing you how to make the jump because you feel here. You feel like you're at a certain place. Where you want to be is over here, a different place. So how can you bridge that gap and feel great when you're speaking? How can you feel comfortable when you're speaking? And that's what we're going to get into. But first, the first thing that we have to look at is traditional lessons, right? A lot of you have studied in school. A lot of you have gone to after school academies, have gone to academies after work. Some of you have had your businesses provide English teachers for you as part of the job perks, right? They have hired English teachers to come in to teach you, and some of you look at YouTube videos, some of you do English lessons, English podcasts, but it just doesn't seem like it's enough, right? And I'm here to tell you that not only is what you're doing, if you're doing those things, it's enough, and it's actually more than enough. And you can probably cut back on some of the input that you're taking and be more efficient and effective in your English time, right? So let's take a look at it. First of all, if you're not having daily contact with English, if you're not doing these things to improve, if you're not actually taking steps to improve your language, that's your answer. Like there's nothing that can be done for inaction. You have to just essentially get off your ass and start taking daily steps, right? That would come in point 2. We're still in point 1, traditional lessons. Let's assume right now I'm talking to people who do take English lessons. You do hire private tutors. You do watch YouTube videos. You do watch Netflix in English. You do attend business meetings in English, but you still feel stuck. Who am I talking to? Am I talking to you? Right? Why do you feel stuck? And the problem is that it's the nature of traditional English lessons. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not this great conspiracy that English teachers are withholding information. That's not it. But the nature of traditional lessons is start with the language. They want to teach you the language, right? They teach you the language. So they'll start with a grammar point. Or in, a little higher level, you'll hire a private tutor. They will come with a topic and you discuss the topic, and they will look at some language and correct your errors. That's typically what happens in conversation classes, right? So they might correct your errors, teach you the grammar around that, and then you say thank you, you pay your money, you separate, and you come back next week and do the same thing again with a different topic. Does that sound familiar? If you go to language classes, an English academy, an English institute, then you go there. You probably have some sort of, routine. You go over some vocabulary, you learn some grammar, you do some book exercise or activity, and maybe some awful exam practice and exam prep, or some writing or whatever. And then you go home. Maybe you'll get homework to do that you can finish in like 10 minutes and then come back to the next lesson, right? Okay, here's the thing. Those are better than nothing. Okay? Those methods are better than nothing. If you're doing nothing, if person A is doing nothing, person B is paying a private tutor or attending an English academy, person B will be better and progress better than person A. However, they're still not really progressing the way they want. They're still stuck. And you've probably been doing this for years and years and years. The problem is it's just like what I call a death cycle, right? It's just error correction, learn the language, thank you, and come again. Because there's no real system to progress. It's just kind of doing the same thing again and again. So you may be in a B2 class or a C1 class or a C2 class, and you learn this grammar when really it's the same grammar you learned last year. You're just doing it again, right? How many times can we learn how to compare something? How many times can we learn like future tenses? How many times can we learn past tenses? And it just kind of becomes the same routine again and again. Okay, those are traditional lessons. They're better than nothing, but they don't produce progress. Okay, it gets you consistent. It gets you contact, not even necessarily consistent contact. It gets you some practice, but it's not focused, right? It's not focused. So the first thing that you need, instead of joining another English class, is to look at your target. To look at your target. What do you want? And we're going to talk about that later when we talk about the Eagle method, right? But that's number one. The first thing is traditional lessons. Why haven't they been working? You've spent a lot of time. You've spent a lot of money for little progress. It's time to do something different. It's time to do something different. It's not, you are not the problem. Your brain is not the problem. It's your system that you're using to progress. You don't have one. And that brings me to point number two, a system. A system to progress, a system that will take you from point A to point B to point C to point D to point E, F, G, right? Step by step, step by step. Oh, baby, I'm gonna get to you, girl. Anyway, forget about that. So that's what you need. That's what's missing in these traditional classes. So we went from the traditional classes Now let's look at how we can fix that. And you fix that by having a system to improve, not just a system to teach English, not just a system to have English class, but a system that you can use to make forward progress. Does that make sense? So let's take, for example, cooking, right? Cooking. If you are just cooking, like for me, if I just want to make dinner for myself and it's just something to eat, then I can just put some like pasta and some tomato sauce or like whip together a hamburger or whatever, right? Throw some potatoes in the oven, whatever, right? I can do that. And that's okay because I'm just eating by myself. I just want to make food to eat. Same thing for you. If learning English is a hobby, if it's a pastime, if it's just something fun for you to do, then the traditional lessons are perfect because it's a group environment. You get to meet people, you get to see how other people communicate, you get to improve see slow improvements, but you're improving in something, personal development. Okay, that's good. But if I'm a chef, if I'm a professional at cooking, if I care about the quality of what I'm cooking, if I'm trying to impress, I don't know, a new girlfriend or boyfriend, if I'm trying to impress somebody that I'm cooking for, and if heaven forbid somebody is paying me money to cook for them, I'm going to want to follow a recipe. I'm going to want to follow a system that tells me how much of something I need to use. I need to measure out how much of something I use, how much oil I use, how much sugar I use, how much salt I use, how much. If I'm cooking by myself, I throw some salt in there, try it, whatever. But if something really matters, if I'm trying to make an impression with my cooking, I'm going to need to follow a recipe. I'm going to need to follow a system. Why is English different? Why is English different from cooking? I would argue it's not, right? Because if you are a professional, now I'm talking to people who want business English now, because I hear it a lot when I ask them, first, their mistakes or confusion in their text, like they're shy to send me an audio message, whatever. And then their response is, my English is good enough. Good enough? Like, this is your job. If you are trying to make an impression on a boss, on a client, on a manager, on a team member, if you want to make an impression with your English, is good enough really what you want to, the standard you want to shoot for? If it is, then fine, keep at that level and know that you probably won't progress, right? Because it's a mental issue, right? Good enough. You don't want to be good enough. You want to be excellent. You want to strive for better. You want to strive for excellence. You want to always be getting better. Or no, it's up to you. But if you want to always get better, but you feel your English is still in the same spot as it always was, there's a problem there. And I think identifying that, for one, identifying that there is a problem is probably the first step. Would you agree with that? Identifying that there's a block, identifying there's a problem, identifying that you're not getting the progress that you want is probably the first step. Then the next step that comes soon after that is a system. And a system that helps you understand where point A is, where point B is, how to get it, where point B is, and where point C is, how to get it. C to D, how to get there. D to E, how to get there. The same as cooking and following a recipe, right? The same thing. That way, whenever you sit down to your English time, you know you're going to get progress because you're following a system. You're laying the foundation first. And we're going to get to that when we get later where I talk about the Eagle method too. But the same as cooking. You want to follow a recipe. If it's important to make an impression with your English. Same thing with cooking. If you want to make an impression with your cooking, if you're just cooking by yourself, okay, recipe or not, whatever. If English is a hobby, okay, do whatever you want to improve it, whatever makes you happy because it's a hobby. But if you're trying to make an impression, it's time to do something different, right? And that's where you need a system to take you through each step, right? And the third thing, this is, before I show you what it is, this is the most important thing, because if you understand how to improve, if you have a system to improve that shows you point A, point B, point C, point D, point E, but you don't take the steps, it's like having a car and keeping it in your garage. It's like having a Ferrari and keeping it in your garage. It's like if you're a motorcycle rider, it's like having a Harley Davidson. It's my dream bike. I love it. Oh, I've never seen you on it. Yeah, it's in the garage. I don't have my motorcycle license. You know, like that. Like, if you need to take the steps, and usually the thing that helps push you forward is accountability. If you are only accountable to yourself, if I am only accountable to myself, then maybe a few days you'll be consistent. Maybe a few weeks, maybe months, you'll be consistent. But when things get busy, when things get a little difficult, when there's a little interruption in your routine, it's easy to let English float behind because it's good enough. Does that make sense? So that's when a strong accountability partner or system or accountability group comes in, because you're not just inside your own head. You're not just inside your own results. You are accountable to somebody else. You are being held accountable, and they're holding you accountable, and you're holding them accountable. And that way you're both being lifted up, because you're not in it alone, right? Because you're not in it alone. You're not alone in this path. You're not alone in this pursuit of English fluency. Does that make sense? So accountability is super, super, super important. And that's something that, another thing, what traditional lessons don't typically offer. If you're in a class and they do have an accountability system, then stay there, because that's awesome. I've never seen that in my life in an academy or a lesson. But you need a level of accountability, if not every day, then every week. It's crucial for not only English progress, but any progress that you want to make for yourself. So then let's take a look at, finally, what is the Eagle method? What is the Eagle method? I get this question a lot because, for one, it's a new process. It's a relatively new system, and people are curious about it because it's getting results for so many people on a deeper level than they have ever imagined from an English program. And if you don't believe me, I have, or even if you do believe me and you want to check it out for yourself, I have in the description a link to our results page, right? Our client testimonials. Listen to stories of clients who have gone through the Eagle method, who are going through the Eagle method, and the types of fast, deep results that they've gone through is, I mean, in some of their words, life changing, right? So, what is this? The Eagle method takes, well, for one, I've developed this system over 15 years of studying and researching and talking to mostly non-native English speakers in my life, because I lived since 2006. I have lived outside of the United States. I lived first in South Korea. Now I live in Spain, and most of my interactions have been with non-native English speakers of different levels, right? So I'm naturally curious and I love languages. I say, how did you learn so well? What did you do? What worked for pronunciation, for grammar, for vocabulary? What do you do that has worked at different levels, right? And I've interviewed some of them in past episodes of the More Than English podcast. And I've just accumulated their tips, their tricks from all of these, and I've put them together in a nice little system that is powerful, that gives you true progress, because you're getting the best tricks that I've learned over the decades, right? Nearly 2 decades, well, over 15 years. So here's the basic outline structure of the system. So first, we turn traditional classes backwards. We don't start with the grammar. We don't start with the English, because there's a lot of irrelevant English that doesn't matter to you, right? So we want to focus on you, right? So that's where we start. We focus on you, and we focus on your goals. We focus on where you're at and where you want to go. And most importantly, we focus on rebuilding an English self-image, so that your self-image rises up to the level of your actual ability. And then we raise the potential of your English speaking and fluency, right? So that's the first thing. We address your self-image, because mostly what I found is non-native English speaker, English is different than any other language in the world. And let's be honest about this. English is different from any other language in the world in terms of its expectations, its opportunities, and its pressure that you guys put on yourselves, right? Most other languages don't have that internal pressure and external pressure, but English does. So that puts a lot of pressure on your mind. So then you're starting in a bad place. Well, we're going to reverse that. And our first step is to reverse and to build your English self-image. Then we create a system like we talked about, right? And in a system, we look at your goals. Where do you want to go? Because the destination is crucial. The destination is important, right? Where you want to go. Where do you want to go? This is important, because it's like getting in a car. If you don't have a destination, then where are you going to go? Again, if you want to drive and have a Sunday drive and just cruise and relax, cool, do that. But if you want to go somewhere, don't you need a destination, a clear destination? See, a lot of people I ask, like, what do you want in English? And they say, I want to be fluent. Okay, what does that mean? Right? What does that mean, I want to be fluent? That's like saying, getting in a car and saying, where do you want to go? I want to go far. Far? Where is far? How do you know when you've gone far? Is that like driving for an hour? Is it driving 100 kilometers? Is it 50 kilometers? Is it across the country? Like, how far is far? How do you know you've gotten far? Same thing with being fluent, right? I want to be fluent. Well, what does that mean? And how do you know? Most importantly, how do you know when you've arrived to being fluent? Right? So the first thing, we mark your destination. What do you want to do? And then we mark little destinations that we can make sure that we're on track to get to your goal, right? And then we master the 4 pillars of fluency. And let me just write this out, the 4 pillars of fluency. And if you have a pen and want to write this down, then write this down. It will be very useful. If not, it's on the Eagle Method, the website. But the 4 pillars of fluency. And these are what I've come to discover and unlock. And by the way, the 4 pillars of fluency are not speaking, writing, listening, and reading. Those are not the 4 pillars of fluency. Those are different skills, and those are too general. Those are broad, right? But let's get down to what really makes an English speaker, and that's number 1, clarity and confidence. Easy for you to say. Confidence and clarity. And confidence and clarity. By clarity, I don't mean being able to speak clearly. I mean clarity in what you want, right? That's the first thing. And once you're clear and once you have all of these in order, then confidence kind of comes automatically. You ever feel out of control with your English and like you don't really know, you don't really feel good, you don't really feel bad, but you don't really feel good with it, right? If you're clear on where you want to go, then you can be clear on, well, then the confidence comes automatically, right? So confidence and clarity, that's pillar 1. Pillar 2 is pronunciation and intonation, right? Because those are distinct, and intonation, well, pronunciation is how you say a word. Intonation is how you give your message. Intonation is valuable and useful when it comes to fluency because it's how you communicate your message. That's powerful. So confidence and clarity, pronunciation and intonation, vocabulary and expressions is pillar 3. And vocabulary and expressions. When you learn vocabulary, forget studying a list of vocabulary words and their translation or their description. Forget that, right? Because vocabulary should be studied and should be learned under 2 different specific, guides. And that's in context. Learn vocabulary in context and learn vocabulary in groups. So understand how it fits in a sentence, not just the meaning, right? So, and then the 4th pillar is grammar and style. So the grammar helps your communication, it helps your style of speech, helps you sound the way you want to sound to communicate the message you want to communicate. So active and passive voice, for example, they communicate different things. They communicate the same thing in different ways, right? So those are the 4 pillars of fluency. And that's the starting point for our system in the Eagle Method, because we start with you and your goals. And then the beginning of the system, we look at the 4 pillars of fluency. And when you understand the 4 pillars of fluency, it's like just turning up the volume on a certain pillar, right? I really want to work on my pronunciation and intonation. Well, now you're going to have a system that you can turn up when you sit down with your English time, right? You have a system so that you can focus in on the pronunciation and intonation, and you'll have techniques and strategies to improve that and to work on that and to build that, right? It's a beautiful thing. And we take each of those, a systematic approach for improving your grammar, improving your vocabulary and expressions, improving techniques to improve your pronunciation and intonation. These are all strong techniques. And I give you techniques, I give you homework, I give you practice. And the biggest thing, you have accountability. We have accountability groups. We meet in weekly meetings to make sure that you've worked on your goal, you've worked towards your goal, and if not, we kind of help you adjust so that you can get on track for your goals. And this is what the Eagle Method is. It's a way to build the 4 pillars of fluency so that you can feel great when you communicate, so that you can improve your level of communication. And guess what? One of the biggest benefits of the Eagle Method is it builds your awareness of language in general. So several of our clients have told me that the Eagle Method is so powerful because they understand their own language on a deeper level. They understand their own communication on a deeper level, and plus they understand their business on another level because they've used the Eagle Method in other areas than just language. So it's a method for learning. It's a method for, as I call, hunting the right expressions, hunting what you want. Because, by the way, it's called the Eagle Method because you imagine an eagle soaring in the sky, right? And then that eagle sees a rabbit or a snake or a fish, and then it swoops down and takes it back to its nest. That's why it's the Eagle Method, because you find out what you exactly want. You see that thing, and then you take it back to its nest. That's what the Eagle Method is. Test it out for yourself. If you want some guidance, if you want some additional information, on my YouTube channel, I have other lessons to help guide you along the process. If you want a little more in-depth practice with it and you want to work with it in depth, book a call. Let's talk. Let's talk about your specific situation. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you for spending the time with me. Thank you for listening. Keep teaching, keep learning. Thanks for watching and listening. I'll see you next time.